We now recognize Dr. Onder from the great state of Missouri.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Unfortunately, I'm all too familiar with high-crime cities. Part of my district is on the outskirts of St. Louis, Missouri, a city that has consistently had one of the highest homicide rates in the country. In fact, I myself, all the way back in 2005, was a victim of a violent crime. I was robbed at gunpoint, and unfortunately, the crime rate in that region has only gotten worse. Just last year, Missouri's Attorney General testified before this committee that the state had to remove a St. Louis prosecutor for prioritizing politically motivated cases over violent offenders, including murderers. And the families hardest hit are neighborhood in these neighborhoods, these inner city neighborhoods are the ones that pay the price. For years, failed leadership and neglected public safety have left entire communities trapped in fear. In St. Louis, Democrat policies have worsened a crisis that was undermining law enforcement and refusing to hold violent criminals accountable. The primary responsibility of government has always been to protect citizens by upholding law and order. When local officials abandon that duty, communities crumble. When prosecutors refuse to prosecute, crime grows. And when politics outweigh public cities, the results are the experience of St. Louis, Chicago, New York City, Charlotte, and others. Record violence, collapsing trust in institutions, and violent neighborhoods. These policies trap generations, they crush hope, and we have to break that pattern. Real compassion means telling young people that we believe that we can do better and that choices have consequences. Accountability is not punishment for its own sake. It is a path to safer streets, stronger families, and communities that can thrive. Mr. Mangual, is there a way that Congress can hold local officials accountable for refusing to enforce the law and refusing federal assistance during periods of sustained violent crime?
I think the best thing that Congress can do in this way to hold these local officials accountable is to condition more of the funds that so many American cities depend on best practices with respect to law enforcement and prosecution.
Yeah, that makes sense. You know, in not only in New York City do you lock up the toothpaste, not the perpetrators, but that in the my staff tells me that in the Navy Yard area of Washington D.C. they lock up the toothpaste at the CVS. Ms. McKinney, just a quick question for you, and I am so sorry for the loss of your brave and heroic son. You mentioned one of the murderers was out on bond. Do you know, was he out on cash bond, or was he just released without essentially without any financial incentive to return?
Sir, I'm really not sure.
No, that's all right. No. It's very common these days. One of these soft on crime policies that so many times is instituted in some of these soft on crime cities and states has been the end of what's called cash bail, which is to say no bail at all, just letting the suspects go free. Mr. Morrow, you're with the Manhattan or Mangual, you were with Manhattan Institute. Shortly after I was elected to the Missouri Senate in August of 2014, of course, very famously, the Michael Brown death and the subsequent riots led to just, I think, the very unfortunate phenomenon, which I think Heather McDonald at Manhattan
Ferguson
Institute,
effect, yeah.
Popularized the Ferguson effect. Explain that, and how can we turn things around? I think it's the opposite of what Mr. Morrow describes: broken windows, policing, enforcing fares, and so on.
That's exactly right. I mean, the Ferguson effect basically describes a phenomenon in which, in the wake of a viral police incident that was controversial, So much public scrutiny and vitriol was lobbed at the institutions of law enforcement that it basically discouraged line officers from being proactive. And one of the best sort of academic demonstrations of this was done in a study by Roland Fryer and Tanaya Devi out of Harvard, where they looked at 5 American cities over a 2-year period and looked at which ones were targeted by the federal government under either President Barack Obama, most of them under President Barack Obama, for civil rights enforcement actions in the wake of viral police use of force incidents. And what they found was a massive increase in felony offenses, homicide offenses specifically, and the mechanism that they believed most explained that increase in crime was a pullback on the part of line officers with respect to proactive.
Every law enforcement fears being the next Darren Wilson. Thank you. I yield back.
And Mr. Chair,
I thank the gentleman, yes.
sorry. Before you go on, I have 2 UC requests. One is from the Council on Criminal Justice, which states, examining trends over a longer period, St. Louis has had a far larger reduction in some violent and property crimes than other large American cities. The homicide rate in St. Louis was 40% lower in the first half of this year than it was in the first half of the first year of the pandemic.
Without objection.
And then the second one is I ask unanimous consent for an article that was written by Stephanie Wiley titled How Profit Shapes the Bail Bond System, published by the Brennan
Without
Center.
objection.
Thank you.
I now recognize the ranking member, Mr. Raskin, from